It's a bad Tiki Thursday. As the great bad Tiki, who returned gallantly 1 week ago, returns again at 4:30. Plus, a legendary New York Giant, not Tiki Barber, but a guy who played the same position as Tiki Barber, is pissed off at Sean Morash. And they will go head-to-head coming up at 3 o'clock. Plus a lot of baseball to get to, including the Yankees beginning a big series against the Red Sox. But as we look ahead to week 2, here's the concern about Daniel Jones. And I know that the Giant fan is very concerned about Daniel Jones. But the concern I have, as someone who has mildly supported him in the past, not that I ever thought he was elite or great, but supported him in that he was okay. He was fine. He was decent. If you have the right pieces around him, he's a fine NFL quarterback. One of my concerns after Sunday is that he's just flat out broken. That quarterbacks can be broken. You used to tell me Zach Wilson was broken, and maybe it was the Jets' fault. Remember David Carr? He was broken. Like, guys get broken based on things around them. Is Daniel Jones a broken toy right now?
Look, I don't think he's a broken toy, but I do think, as everyone clearly can see, and even his opponents are saying, he's lacking confidence. And that manifests itself in a couple of different ways. One is that he looks unsure of what he's doing out there sometimes. And then two, everything's just slow. Right? When I watched the game, obviously because I was calling a game, I had to watch it back. When I watched it back, obviously knowing what happened, I was like, well, why did it happen? You know, it's one thing to watch it, and he's like, oh, that was a terrible throw. But when you're watching it back after not watching it live, you can like slow yourself down and say, okay, why did this XYZ thing happen? And it felt to me like he was just unsure. And so as a result, throwing a comeback route is just slow. It comes out of his hand. It's all right, you got the check down, you just kind of wait, and then you go through your progression, and then it's an incomplete pass. It just felt like everything was uncertain to him. Now, some of that is rust. Like, we keep hearing this. Oh, he's just rusty. He got hurt in week 6 of last season. He didn't play all of last season. Barely had a quarter maybe in the preseason. It's just rust. It's just rust if it wasn't such an important year for him. But it's such an important year for him, he can't afford to be rusty. He can't afford to be unsure because now, I mean, we're just a week in. Most Giant fans have already passed judgment on Daniel Jones' 2024 season.
May I ask you about this rust? Now, every time I give an answer to either of my sons, they always go, why? Why?
Why?
Why?
Why?
And sometimes why is like, it's annoying, but it's actually really smart. Because why? Why does the light go on when you press a button, Dad? Why? Like, there's so many freaking whys.
Well, it opens it opens a switch, and it just sends the electricity, and then it clicks on.
Yeah, I don't give that answer. I just say, I don't know, it just happens. You say rust. Yeah. Here's why I have a tough time believing it is rust. And I don't want to necessarily compare him to Aaron Rodgers, who's an all-time great quarterback. But Aaron Rodgers should have had rust, and he did have some rust.
Didn't play a year.
Yeah, a full year. So there should have been rust on Aaron Rodgers. What you just described, the tentativeness, is that really rust? Like, we've seen guys miss time. Is that the rust?
What else do I call it?
Broken.
I can't say broken because 2 years ago he was so good.
That's 2 years ago.
Or 2 seasons ago.
That's 2 seasons ago.
It wasn't 2 years. But 2 seasons ago he was so good. So I know it's there, right? I know those quick decisions are there. But maybe it's not rust. So maybe it is what I've been saying for almost a year now. Back, at the beginning of last season, I said, man, doesn't it feel like Daniel Jones is always trying to prove it? Every year. It's like, you know what? You're replacing Eli. Well, prove that you're just good enough to replace Eli. Then you get a new head coach and a new coordinator. It's like, well, prove you can work in this system. And then you get up to your contract year and your 5th-year option year. Prove you deserve that 5th-year option. Prove you deserve the franchise tag. Prove you deserve a $40 million deal. And now it's prove you're healthy and are the future for the Giants. It's every single season. And so I don't know if I felt him. I don't know if it's looked like he's felt that pressure earlier on in all of those prove-it moments. He's actually kind of risen to them and to some extent. This year it feels like he's maybe cracking a little bit under that pressure. I mean, he should be used to it, but week 1, he looked like he was overthinking and not not loose, not playing free, not trusting what was given to him or whatever the play call was. Now, was he helped out completely? No, he wasn't. Malik Neighbors still has a lot to learn about the NFL. He's got to run routes better. He's got to obviously he was made one or two or three really good catches. He led all rookies in receptions, so he's on the right track. But there's an accountability that needs to exist, and some of that has to come from Daniel Jones. You know what I mean? Sometimes the best quarterbacks are the ones that are a little bit of an ass.
Can he really be that right now, though?
I don't think that's his personality.
Right.
So.
Even if it was, when you're playing as poorly as he is,
right? You can't. You haven't earned it.
Yeah.
Right. You haven't. They're not gonna listen to you. And so, like, there's an edge to that. You can't be nice to everybody all the time. You want to be friendly. Let's be friends. Yeah, all right. You know what creates good friendships in football?
Success.
100%.
Yeah.
Success. Be successful. And if it means me holding you accountable because it makes us both better, then be that way, even if you come off as an ass.
Right.
And it's an edge. It's a part of quarterbacking that we know when we see it, right? You can tell, like Peyton Manning was clearly that way. I think Pat Mahomes is clearly that way. But when it's not there, you notice it.
Yeah.
You notice when it's not there.
It's weird, and I hate refighting old arguments about this guy because Daniel Jones has been a controversy for 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
He really has. It has been one of the most talked about things surrounding the Giants for 6 years, and you can understand why.
Even when he was good.
Position.
Even when he was good.
Even when he was good. Even when he was good, there's always the debate around him. To me, it's a very different debate now because he's a different player.
Right.
What I witnessed on Sunday, what we all witnessed on Sunday, and what you pray to the football gods you don't see this Sunday, was somebody that was a shell of his former self. And his former self was okay. His former self was fine. Mm-hmm. Like, maybe he wasn't good enough. I totally get that argument. But he was an adequate, smart, growing quarterback, especially in his first year with Brian Daboll.
Yeah.
What we saw on Sunday, and this is what scares me about him, was something that was far different.
Yeah.
It felt like a broken quarterback, and we've seen broken quarterbacks. Zach Wilson may have had better potential and a chance to succeed in a better situation. And he got broken by a bad coaching staff. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm not saying Daniel Jones got broken by a bad coaching staff. He actually has a really good coaching staff. Maybe Daniel Jones was broken by one too many injuries. Maybe Daniel Jones was broken by an offensive line that last year was freaking atrocious. Maybe Daniel Jones, to your point, has been broken by the pressure. The pressure has always been on him, but every year there's more and more pressure, and now you have the contract. Fair or not, that's a pressure.
Right.
So I don't know if it's all of those things, if it's one of those things, but my deepest concern would be he's just freaking broken.
Yeah.
And when people are broken, I don't know if they can be fixed in the sports sense.
And that's the next question to be asked. Is it irreparable? Can he recover from this? And the answer is, of course he can.
Can he?
Of course.
Did David Carr ever recover from it?
David Carr was broke when he was his first year.
It happened right away.
He got sacked, what, 87 times? I don't know if that's still a record. I forget what the number was, but it was a ridiculous amount of contact. So he never was able to keep his head up and look down the field. Even though he's pretty good as a broadcaster these days on NFL Network. But I think that Daniel Jones has the ability to get over this because he's done it before, right? He has history, and not too long ago history to draw upon to find the success. But this is why it's hard to evaluate him, though, because we know what our emotion is towards him, but we don't know if that's going to be something that's fair to him. And football's not fair. I'm not even saying it should be, but it's not fair to him how we reacted after one game, you know? And so we have to wait and see game 2 and game 3. And if it gets to game 4, as I've contended from the very first Monday post game, that's when you have to really make a decision.
Yeah, but you know that can change. Your view on this can change very quickly.
Of course it can.
Just like it can for all of us. If he comes out on Sunday against a team he's had great success against.
Right.
The Washington Commanders, and before that, the Washington football team. And I forget if he ever faced them as the Washington Redskins, but he's faced Washington throughout his career. I think he did.
I think he did.
He's faced all of them.
Right.
He's faced all the different different team names and logos.
Well, that's why Kayvon is like, hey, it's not a rivalry. Yeah, the Commanders aren't.
Right.
But trust me, back in my day, the Redskins were.
Oh, no doubt. But they have always been like the magic elixir for Daniel Jones. They've always been the opponent that gets him right. Now, maybe it's a temporary right. No one's saying that if he performs well this weekend against Washington, it's going to turn everything around. But if he struggles the way he struggled in week 1, and it's bad, and it's ugly, and he's doing things he never used to do, like he's bouncing passes, and he's looking completely overmatched, then I respect you got to be patient. I want to be patient, too. I think Daniel Jones should start on Sunday.
Yeah, but here's the thing.
But that can change.
I don't think that Dave's wants patience. I don't think that's what he's preaching.
I don't think he can be patient because he needs to win.
No, he's not. He's not preaching patience. I know that's what the good, supportive, positive, reinforcing coach would do. Just be patient with my guy. He's getting there. I don't think that they can afford to do that, and I don't think that Dave wants to do that.
No, I
don't think he believes that that's what Daniel Jones needs.
I think Brian Daboll, and we always want our coaches and managers to do this, and a lot of times they don't. A lot of times decisions on who should start come from contracts. They come from where a guy was drafted. They come from expectations. We've seen a lot of that over the years, sometimes with Daniel Jones, certainly with Zach Wilson on the other side. I think we're past that. Like, I don't think his contract now matters. I don't think where he was selected all those years ago matters. I think Brian Daboll, whether we like the decisions or not, and so far I think most of us are good with Daniel starting on Sunday, as down as people are on him. I don't know if everybody's calling. I know Sean and Loogie were yesterday, but I don't know if most Giant fans are literally saying he can't start Sunday. But I do think we've entered a world with Brian Daboll, and this is a good place, Giant fans, where he's going to make the decision not as a cliche, but as a reality on who gives him and his team the best chance to win. Because Brian Daboll can't afford it. He needs to win. And I don't think they're as married to Daniel Jones, clearly you saw it during the offseason, as maybe they felt a year or two ago. So when Brian Daboll makes the decision to start Daniel Jones on Sunday, he's literally doing it for now because it gives them the best chance to win. But if he plays like a broken quarterback again, I don't know if Brian Daboll makes that same decision the following Sunday.
Yeah, no, and it's something to watch. I think it's the biggest story of the Giants this year is Dave's. I mean, Dave's decision on Daniel Jones. I don't think that, like, Malik Neighbors, are we really going to judge him fully on his rookie season? The answer is no. Right? The running back room, it's new. They still have some kinks to work out. Are we judging them fully? No. Defensively, just some new pieces. Obviously, Kayvon has got to take a step forward in year 3, the new defensive coordinator. All of this feels new.
Yeah.
But there's one that's consistent and has been here for a long time, at least from a quarterback's perspective, and that's Daniel Jones. Like, there is not let's just wait and give him time on Daniel Jones. It sucks for Daniel Jones, but it's the reality of what he's facing from the fans, and it's the reality of what he's likely facing internally from Dave.
You know what else he's facing? And the Giants made this very obvious for us, and this is why I think their quarterback decisions throughout the year are so different than quarterback decisions of the past, where you're thinking about a guy you drafted and you're thinking about how much money one makes. The Giants admitted to all of us during the offseason that they wanted to move on from this guy. They told us. We saw it on TV. We saw it on Hard Knocks. It has been painfully obvious that the New York Giants tried to upgrade a quarterback. They didn't do it because the asking price was too high, and they determined, all right, we tried, but the best case for us is to run it back with him. That also tells you they're going to replace him next year. And we've talked about that for months. And because you're not married to him, and because you're going to replace him next year, you are literally making a decision every week. Which guy gives us the best chance to win?
Yeah, that's a hard way to coach.
It's a hard way to coach, but it's actually
hard.
The right way to coach, isn't it?
I mean,
put the guy on the field who gives you the best chance to win. And right now, it's still Daniel Jones.
I'm mixed on the mixing and matching because it feels like college. Think about how we're in college, right? It's like, well, this guy was good this week, and I don't trust him matchup-wise, so he's young, and we're going to start the other. I just can't see that. There's a continuity that needs to happen. There's also a command of everything that you need to be aware of. And does Drew Lock have that? I don't know. Right, he didn't play for most
That's
of the
why.
preseason.
That's why Drew Lock's not playing, because as of right now, he doesn't give them the best chance to win.
Does Tommy DeVito have that?
No.
It's a big question mark. Obviously, he won last year. It's a similar system. Daves is obviously calling the plays as opposed to Kafka. But does Tommy DeVito understand everything so he can make everything right and get into the right play and make the right decisions in real time? I don't know.
No, I think
it's too big of a question mark to go with. So Daniel Jones, even though we don't want to give him that benefit of the doubt, is getting the benefit of the doubt from this coaching staff. And I just hope it's not the fatal flaw to the early part of this season.
Well, it could be, but I think that they will make the move faster than we realize because they're not married to him. This is such a freeing thing. Like,
in a way,
every time the Jets stuck with Zach Wilson, they did it because they were married to him. They literally, not because they really believed in him. I mean, did they really believe in him?
Mm-hmm.
No, they didn't. They did it because Joe Douglas made a decision to draft him where he drafted him.
Right, very high second.
And so they felt the need to run him out there all the time to almost prove themselves correct. I think that marriage, which maybe existed early on with Daniel, it's gone. And so you laid out great points on why they wouldn't go to Drew Lock or Tommy DeVito right now. That's right now. If Daniel Jones continues to be bad, this broken player that he looked like on Sunday, they'll make the change.
Yeah.
They have to make the change because they're trying to win football games, much to the chagrin of Sean Morash, who wants to tank for guys that he's barely watched play football.
I am fully understanding that this team is not going 0-17 or even 1-16. They will not be that bad. But this is why I'm frustrated with this, because Jones had this whole offseason where the whole world found out that the team was looking elsewhere at quarterback. If there was ever a week to come out and say, you know what, I don't care about anything, let me just let loose, it would have been last week with Daniel Jones, and he attempted one pass over 20 yards, and now all the advanced stats have come out about how much separation his wide receivers got. The offensive line wasn't an issue. The fact of the matter remains, the Giants are going to be stuck in this precipice until either somebody steps up at quarterback, is that Locke or DeVito, or they finally hit on a quarterback. Look at the teams playing tonight, the Bills and Dolphins. They got in position to draft those quarterbacks. They took them. Their franchise has changed. Unfortunately, that's where the Giants are now.
Sean offends Tiki at times, and many of us, when he talks so freely about tanking and wanting his team to lose. Earlier today, he offended a Giant legend. That Giant legend will join us right at 3 o'clock to give Sean a piece of his mind. We'll get to your calls coming up, 888-808-1019. Is Daniel Jones unfixable? Is he so broken that Brian Daboll is going to be forced very soon to have to take his broken toy and not just put it to the repair shop, but donate it? Basically say, I'm sending it away. We'll get your calls coming up. Plus, Tiki brought it up earlier. Are the Giants and Washington even rivals? We've got a key Giant player saying no, not at all. We'll give you our takes on it coming up live from the Town Fair Tire Studios.